Hello, hello, hello again, ladies. I'm so glad that you all join us for another Great Money Monday. We've taken a few weeks of break, so I hope that you all have missed me as much as I have missed you all. But as usual, we have a dynamic speaker with us today. So many times along this journey where we're trying to figure out, okay, what's next? How do we actually take advantage of our life, get that financial independence? We're thinking maybe moving abroad is going to be that option. And I know for some people, they're like, sounds nice, but it also sounds overwhelming. And over and over again, I say sometimes we are limited based on our vision. And so if we can't see somebody else has done it, we might say, goodness gracious, it's not possible, or it seems unreachable. But these are goals that are definitely reachable. And so that's why we have an amazing speaker with us today. Our speakers hail from Philadelphia area of the USA. The team of Darby and Haynesworth are no strangers to hard work and big dreams. After studying the American real estate market for years, they decided to set their sights on untapped markets that would serve a dual purpose: legacy for their families and providing a soft landing for the African diaspora to come home. The two originally repatriated to West Africa in the spring of 2019 and found it difficult to furnish their home and the task of setting up utilities as a wholly unfamiliar process. With the frustration they felt dealing with the confusion that comes with international relocations, they decided to be a change agent by resolving those issues for the next wave of Black Americans making that journey. The vision of Sankofa Arms was to be a beacon of light to show others the way home. The property consists of 5 furnished, equipped, and fully equipped apartment homes, boasting 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms each. It was very important to create a comfortable, plush environment that felt safe and beautiful. And they look forward to welcoming all of you all. And we are one of the first people who will actually have access to the website that just launched today. So I'm going to drop that link into the chat as well. But I want to turn it over to our speaker. Please welcome Darby Hansberry.
Thank you so much. It's kind of beautiful. That's the first time I've actually heard those words that are written, spoken aloud, you know. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Queen Haynesworth. I am one half of the Darby Haynesworth LLC, Darby Haynesworth, the foundation, as well as a part owner of Sankofa Arms. So thank you for your warm welcome. And I look forward to talking to you today.
Well, as we get started, I think the first thing is the kind of what was the motivation? So, how did you think, goodness gracious, I'm sitting over here in Philly one day and I'm just gonna pack it all up and go across the ocean the next day? What was that motivation? What was that kind of turning point to say, yeah, I don't think I want to be here long term. I want to turn the page and go somewhere else?
I've always been a world traveler. I grew up as a military child in Germany, in Nuremberg, West Germany in the 80s. So I knew that I wanted to have a international life when I grew up. So my partner and I are very best friends. We travel, you know, you were talking to me about solo traveling. You know, you have that one good girlfriend that you travel with everywhere, and that was us. And we had traveled so many different places. We had gone across the Caribbean. We had been to Mexico a couple times, and just like looking at Europe, possibly taking a vacation to Europe. And I wanted to go back to Germany. I haven't been there since the wall came down in 89 to 92 is when I left the country. So I kind of wanted to go back to take a look at like what became of our old army base. And we wanted to go to, I'd always wanted to see Paris, and she'd always wanted to see Rome. And I wanted to go back to Germany. So we were going to take a trip to go take a train and go country to country to country. And then I thought about it, and I said that before I put a dime in a European pocket, we need to go home. So myself, like many African Americans, our history gets lost. And so many of our families were only able to trace our lineage back to Charleston back to Hampton, back to Jamestown, back to Baltimore, you know what I mean? And your history pretty much disappears from that. So there's always been an unspoken yearning in us to find out where home is. And so the inspiration started really, it sounds crazy. The reason why I thought I came to Senegal turned out not to be the reason why I came to Senegal, but you know, spirit is funny like that. You know, sometimes you have to listen to the whisperings and the yearnings of your gut, and it'll lead you to different places that don't make sense on the surface. So buckle up. This is my Senegal story. There was a song that Akon had in the mid 2000s called Mama Africa. You remember it?
No, and I was looking up all this Akon stuff of what he's doing. I'm like, okay, let me write that down.
So Akon had a song and it was called Mama Africa. And in Mama Africa, he is describing Senegal being so beautiful and lush and green and the brownness of the people and the smiles and how, like, if you visit once, guaranteed to visit twice, right? So I really love that song. It was about, do the kids still say it's about? I don't know. I like it's about. So we're listening to this Akon song and I'm like, man, wherever it is he's talking about, I want to go, right? And then in 2010, they erected the African Renaissance Monument. And I remember making the intention.
Now describe that, because I think people know what the picture is, but people don't know what it actually, the name of the picture that we see on the internet.
Okay. So the African Renaissance Monument is a monument to the spirit of Africa going forward. So it's a man and he's clutching his wife to his side and his son is on his shoulder and they're pointing into the direction of a new Africa, right? Now, I have a love affair with this monument. I love it. I put this monument on my vision board because I believe in vision boards. I believe in setting your intentions, my affirmations, all of that. We'll get into it later. But I had put this on my vision board and I had posted in 2016 on my Instagram page, The Queen Within Me, that I will see this. I'm going to see you before Christ the Redeemer, because I wanted to see Christ the Redeemer in Brazil too. So I didn't know at that time that we were going to go travel. I had no idea. It was just something I saw and I'm like, I have got to see that in person. And it became so much a part of my heart to see that in person. I went until I can see that in person out of my dining room window while I have my coffee in the morning. Perfectly framed, unobstructed. I am close enough to see the expressions on their faces.
That's huge.
That's how manifestation works. So we have the song and we have the monument. And I'm like, I got to go see it. At first, I didn't know that the monument was in Senegal. I thought that the monument was in Ghana because it just says West Africa. I don't know why I thought Ghana, you know, they have the big arch, or maybe it was in Nigeria or someplace. I didn't know that it was in Senegal. So when I put two and two together, that it's the same as the Akon song and it's the monument. Oh, I'm like, oh, we're going there. What's that, Dakar? Let's find out how to get there, right? So once we decided that we were no longer going to go to Europe because Africa's calling, right? We were going to take a 2-week trip to 4 different cities. We were going to go to Accra, Ghana. We were going to go to Lagos, Nigeria, because of course, why not? We were going to go to Freetown, Sierra Leone, and we were going to go to Dakar, Senegal. Well, excuse me. We end up finding out that you can't just fly from one city to the next city to the next country in Africa. A lot of African flights will route you through a European country before you can fly back. So in order to go from, I think, Senegal to Nigeria at that time, I had to go either from Senegal to Paris and then Paris to Nigeria, or I had to go Senegal to Casablanca, Morocco, and then Casablanca to somewhere else and then to Nigeria. It was a mess. Like you couldn't go like state to state, you know what I mean?
Kind of like when you're flying through Europe.
Right, yeah. Right. You know, like Europe is, first of all, it's small and it's connected by railway. So you don't have to fly through Europe. You can actually drive or you can take the train. Africa's not like that yet. It needs to be. Maybe in our lifetime we'll see it. So because we couldn't go to all four countries, we wouldn't have had enough time. We decided, you know what, we're gonna take a year and we'll go to one, and then a year and we'll go to the next, and then so on and so forth. Africa's not going anywhere, right? We came to Senegal, my darling. When I tell you the tears started from the moment we're flying in, like coasting over the ocean, and then we see the shoreline. I'm already welling up, you know what I mean? And for whatever reason, I had Lion King Broadway soundtrack playing in my head. So, like at the time we were about to land, the Circle of Life was on. Girl, I lost it. When the pilot came on and he welcomed us to Senegal in French and in Wolof, it was the first time I had ever heard like an African language spoke so powerfully, like over an intercom, you know, and it shook me. And when we got off the plane and you know, went through customs, and the customs agent, he was looking at my passport and he was like, "You've never been to Africa?" I said, "No, it's my first trip." And so he was like, "Ah, American girl." I said, "Yeah." He was like, "Welcome home." Stamped my passport and gave it back to me. Now I had just stopped crying from picking up my luck. It was a mess. Like I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's been through this. If you travel to Africa for the first time and it's overwhelming emotionally. And then when the doors open, after we've gotten our bags, we've cleared through security and we're about to go out to find our ride, the doors open and there was nothing but a sea of Black faces. And they were all looking at me, smiling expectantly because they're waiting on their loved one to come through the door. It didn't matter that I wasn't the one that they were looking for. They were the ones that I was looking for. And when I walked out, the dams broke. I overwhelmingly felt home. It was something I had never experienced before. Like it wasn't anything that I expected to experience. I knew that, you know, I knew it was going to get to my heartstrings, but I didn't expect that. So that was just day one. And I cried every day. Every day, it turned out that it was something new that just broke me wide open. It was something new that I experienced that I had never experienced before, that it gave me just a deeper sense of self and understanding, you know. And I loved my trip. I met some people that were very influential in the next 4 years of my life. You know, like they call them your day ones. I met them on that trip. And when I finally went back home, oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. I was here Christmas through New Year's. On New Year's Eve, I met Akon.
Oh my gosh.
So on New Year's Eve, I met Akon. We were staying at the Radisson Blue, and that's where he holidays whenever he comes in town for Christmas or what have you. And his family was there. And so we're walking out in the parking lot, and there's this big fanfare around him. And I finally realized like who it was. So I stepped to him and I told him that you're the reason why I'm in this country. He said, "What?" I said, "Your song, Mama Africa, changed my life, and I had to come see what you were talking about." That man scooped me up in the biggest hug and gave me a kiss on my cheek, and he was like, "That's love." He was like, "Please come back and bring your whole family." The next day, at that time, this is 2017 going into 2018. The next day, on New Year's of 2018, I was invited to the house of Chung Young. So Chung Young is he's a leader here. He is partners with Akon in Lighting Africa, and he was having a library dedication and in his community. So we end up going there, and all of the media he's a pretty big deal. All of the Senegalese media was there. And as we're walking up, some people that we were affiliated with had already, they got the invitation for us, so we were brought along. As we were walking up, he turns and looks at us and tells all the media, and these two are our sisters from the United States, and this is their first time in Africa. Just to experience that kind of welcome, and we ended up talking and chatting with people all day. We eventually had dinner at the house, and he was asking me, why are you here, like what do you do? And I told him that I empower women and girls, because that's what I do through finding the queen within. And that I build community. And he was like, that's wonderful. He was like, we need that here in Senegal. I said, all you need to do is, hey, send for me, I'll come. And he said, we may have to arrange that. He eventually sent for me. But when he sent for me, he didn't send for me. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, we want to welcome you to this this global youth summit that's happening in April. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So about them tickets though. Honey, because if you're sending for me, that means the car is right outside. You pack your bags and we'll see you tomorrow. So we're not there, but coming, inshallah. When I got home, Senegal would not leave me alone. It was in every thought. It was in every dream. I never saw commercials, anything mentioning Senegal on the YouTube. Now all of a sudden everything is popping up with Dakar. Something about spirit just kept reminding me, like, hey, you remember that place, that trip you took that changed your world? And so T and I were talking, and I asked her, I was like, what about, you ever think about moving? And she was like, you know what? I would move. And she was like, I loved it. We experienced magic every single day. She was like, I would move there. And we have been, I'd had a real estate license for 10 years in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And we had already had some experience with investing, different investing strategies and things like that. So we were looking at the market, and they're building new cities here. There's a new city that's called Diamniadio. It's close to where the airport is. It was a brand new airport that we flew into too. They shut down the airport that was in Dakar. They built a new Blaise de Jagny airport in 2017. We flew in 2 weeks after it opened. And so out near the airport is all open land, and they're building cities. And where I'm at now was all old airport land. Like in the last 10 years, they have been selling off these lots, and the buildings are going up like gangbusters. The city is growing literally around me. And so when we were looking at that, we were like, we could really make an impact here. Like that would be a great place to set up some business so that we can have some eventual passive income from the real estate, but we knew that it was going to take work. We definitely have a different standard in the West than there is here. Anyone who has traveled to Africa before, you kind of you'll know that. And so we were looking around for what we were used to. And sometimes the American standard, you get slack for it, for wanting an American standard, because God knows you're not at home. But when it comes to comfort, and when it comes to having a good night's sleep and having comfortable accommodations, that stuff is important. So we decided to game plan it, to just play around with the idea. Hey, what if we moved? And eventually we moved, spring of 2019. We got that one apartment in the part of town that was more decent than the other parts of town that we had visited previously, but it turns out that we still didn't know much. We came with only our bags. We flew in through Turkey, visited Istanbul. We had 2 carry-ons and 2 check bags, and that's how we started our new life. And it was kind of rough for the first couple months. We didn't know anything. And to boot, neither of us speak French. And we don't speak Wolof. And then I found out that there's like 5 other languages that people talk like intermittently, and you can have a sentence, and that sentence has French, Wolof, Arabic, and a little bit of English in it. So confusing, a bit much. So imagine Virginia girl, Jersey girl. We've been in Philly. I don't know if you know the vibe of Philly, but like we've been in Philly for over 10 years collectively between the two of us. Um, and we were completely out of our depth. We were out of our depth. Like there's no way that you don't know what you don't know, right? So we had to figure it out. And some of that took some hard lessons. We had to figure out and things you know just don't do that no more. So um we eventually figured it out. We had a nice place. We were able to furnish it, you know, with Senegalese furniture, and we were able to get some linen, but it was Senegalese linen. And, you know, we just started dreaming about like, man, if I had my way, I would get this. Or if I had my way, I would just bring that, you know? And so we started thinking about it. And for whatever reason, the figure of 10 came up. Like I wanted a guest house. I wanted a beautiful, sprawling guest house. You can find compounds here. And I wasn't used to that in the States. You know, in the States, you may have a house, which is a colonial on a quarter-acre lot, and you're happy with that. You know, here, they have compounds that have like 10-bedroom houses. There's wings to it. There's a boys' quarter. There's a gate. Like it's like nothing I've ever seen. This is the Africa that they don't show you, right? No one told me that the water was blue off the coast of Africa. I don't know why that was a shock to me for me to see it because National Geographic doesn't show that. And we had no knowledge of what Africa is outside of Red Cross commercials, Feed the Children, and National Geographic. Am I right?
Mhm.
So come here and be able to see where African city life meets village life, and they're right here together. Like we had an apartment building, and there were cows that walked down our street once a day. Like these became our cow friends. I put out mango pits and peels for them in the morning. Like it was a whole herd of them. We're in the middle of the city. Like who does that? And then people is like, oh well, those are the, you know, those are the Pole people, those are the Fulani people. They just have herds of sheep and goat and cattle, and they live just where you live. It's just parked out front, like a Buick. So that's something else. It's just like you, this is beautiful amalgamation of just culture and tradition and the things that we bug out at, they don't even blink an eye. Like, yeah, what's wrong? Like you're the only one with the problem. You learn that here as a Westerner. Um, so we had this figure of 10 in our mind, and we had gone home in 2019 to finish packing and things like that. And we were just going to go home for the winter time. I was going to go down south, see my parents, and you know, we were going to see some friends, and T was going to see her parents and her I'm sorry, her family. And that's all that was supposed to happen. And then COVID hit before we can come back. And that landed us in the US for an entire year.
Oh, wow.
And our apartment that was here, we ended up losing the lease on it because, you know, we weren't here. And so we had to put those things in storage through a friend. And so it gave us time to pack up the townhouse where we were living. And we'd already started the packing process in 2018. So there was already boxes there when we left to go to in 2019. And so all through 2020, we lived with floor to ceiling boxes. And everything that we thought would benefit us here, like everything that would be comfortable, from, you know, 1,000 thread count sheets to nice comforters and blankets to just decorative items that didn't just scream African market. You know what I mean? Just like the things that we normally would have got, candles, like those type things. Whatever I thought would make the home beautiful, because I love making a beautiful home, I wanted to do that. So we would buy those things when it went on clearance sale. We would go to Walmart and Target and places like Big Lots and Ollie's and all of those places. And whenever we had a little bit of money, we would just get those things, put it in a box, and put it in the middle of the living room until it was almost to the ceiling. And so we still didn't have a place yet, mind you. Like it's just a figure of 10. Like we are looking for places. We thought we were going to go to Gambia, but the housing fell through in Gambia due to COVID. And so we were just faithful to the vision that something was going to come up, that God was going to show the way, because we already knew that 10 was a figure, like somewhere. And so we had met a guy named Usman here, and he had been a student. He was like 28. He had been a student here in Dakar, and he kept in touch. And so he reached out to us and he said, hey, listen, this is a long shot, but my student visa just came through and I've been trying to get it for 5 years. He said, I have enrollment at the University of Utah, but I need 3 weeks between the time I get there to when school starts. And I'm wondering if you could host me. He was like, it would mean everything to me if you could host me. So I looked at her, she looked at me, and then we looked around our living room because we don't even have space for the couch. The couch is on its side against the wall because floor to ceiling boxes. Do you understand? So we're just like, we don't have anywhere for you to sleep. And he was like, I will sleep on the floor. I don't care. He was like, anywhere is good as long as I'm in America, I'm fine. So we ended up rearranging the space so that he can have the couch. We put it back down. And when he was there, he told us of a man that, a family that he knew that was back in Dakar that was building an apartment building that had 10 units. This is where the 10 comes back. So he said, ooh, that's intriguing. Tell us more. So he started a relationship between us and one of the brothers. There had been either 8 or 9 brothers, and they had been everywhere. Like some were in Canada, they were in America, they were across Senegal, one was in Gambia, one was an engineer in Sweden, because African families are like that. So we started a relationship with his brother, and he's sending us pictures back and forth. And then finally, when the travel ban was lifted in August, my partner, T, was able to fly to Senegal so she can face to face with the guy with the apartment building and let him know that she was serious, and walk through the building and everything was wonderful. And he told us that the apartment would be done, the building would be finished in January. Early January, late December, the building was going to be done. And so we were like, okay, we got a date. We have a date. Bought a truck because rainy season, okay? And at the time we couldn't import, I had to sell my car because my car was like a 2008 and her vehicle was a 2009, and you had to have a car that was 8 years or younger. Here, let's move over here. So we went to the municipal courts auction and we bought a Dodge Journey because the name seemed apropos, doesn't it? And it was the SUV because rainy season. So we bought the truck and made the final investment to buy 10 apartments worth of furniture. And at this point, we're tapped. Like this is the investment. And going on, like the relationship that we're building with the brother, and he's in touch twice a week. He's sending video and pictures and all the things. And so we had made the arrangements and we were going to ship to make sure that the truck, the vehicle, and our container got to Dakar at the same time, the time that the building was going to be done. We get here and we were going to be staying with a friend for 2 months. She had a house here. We were going to be staying with our friend for 2 months, and we just going to work it out, And we had gone to the building several times. Now I've met with the brother. The brother seems lovely. It's great. And so now it's coming close to the time that the building is going to be done. And so now it's time to meet with the whole family. We'd already sent over we had sent over a proposal. We had already sent over a preliminary contract for acquisition of the building. We had already worked on figures. We had already did all the things, you know, like this is just going to be an informal meeting with the brothers because we'd already worked out all of the other details with the one brother who was managing the project. So we get in the building and we go up to the top floor for the apartment, go through each one, like we're just viewing it. And we went all the way up top, and that's where the brothers were, because the first one had met us at the door. We walked in and they looked very confused. And then they looked at each other. And then they looked back at us. And then I guess the older brother, the one who actually spoke English, you know, after we introduced ourselves, that I'm Queen Haynesworth and this is T. Darby, he said, "Where are your husbands?"
Of course.
"Where are your husbands?" So we looked at each other and we're just like, "What husbands?" Like, no, we are Darby Haynesworth. He thought that Darby Haynesworth were men.
Of course.
Of course. So they're chattering back and forth to each other, like, wait a minute, what do you mean? So now we're under scrutiny, right? Before it was just like, okay, what's the money? Bring the money, we got it. So now we're under scrutiny. And so one's brother that originally pretended not to speak English, turns out he speaks English very well. He says, "Well, what are your intentions for the building?" So we told him, like, pretty much the layout of what we wanted to do with Sankofa Arms and have it be a welcoming space, a safe space for solo travelers. We want to create an environment where African Americans can come and it'd be a soft landing for them to come to branch out to go other places, you know, because that's what we wanted. We didn't necessarily want to fill the building and you'll come and you'll be here 3 years. This one will be there 5 years. Like, we wanted to be a landing space so that you can explore the rest of the area, decide where you want to live or not. And then you would always, like, I wanted it to be a community hub. So I'm having this conversation with him and he's like, "Yes, but," telling me that this used to be a sheikh's house, and is there going to be alcohol in the building, and we can't do parties in the building because the whole neighborhood knows us and thus and so. And it's 10 apartment units. There's going to be people living here. I can't guarantee what they're going to do. I can tell you that I'm 40. I'm not interested in throwing wild parties, sir. Like, I'm a businesswoman. I'm a serious businesswoman. And so they're asking, well, what experience do you have? And we're telling them that we've rented before, that we are real estate investors. I said I had a real estate sales license, you know, since 2008 in 2 different states. Like, we've done this before. So the one brother asked me, "Well, who did you work for?" And I looked at him sideways like, "What you know about where I would work for anyway? You live here. What do you know about who I?" So I used to be an agent for Keller Williams. So I told him Keller Williams and GMAC, and he's like, "Oh, but not Remax." I said, "What do you know about Remax?" "Oh, I saw a Remax commercial when I was on a plane once. So Remax is the best." I said, "Because you saw a commercial? That's nice." So needless to say, you know, to make a long story shorter, the brothers deliberated and they changed all of the figures that we had talked about.
Oh my goodness.
They
How
changed.
much was the change?
They went to, like, they showed themselves to be very untrustworthy and very I don't even have the words for it, but it was very, I hated it. You know, we had spent so much time. At this point, we had been in over a year, you know, negotiating this deal, coming to the table. This was only supposed to be formalities. And our container came and the building still wasn't done. And so the building also had it had 2 storefronts underneath. And so since we were going to acquire the building anyway, including the storefronts, we asked if we could load the container into the storefronts until the building was done, and all the furniture that was going into the apartments anyway could be stored there. And he changed the price, and he just wanted some astronomical figure in order for us to store it there when we went on what the brother said would be done and complete in the first place in order to ship our things. So we walked away from that deal. And it was scary because we didn't know what else we were going to do. We didn't have a warehouse space, like we had just been preparing to acquire a 10-unit apartment building for like the better half of a year. So the amount of stress that we went through just to get to the table, only for the table to not be made out of wood, as we previously thought. And then we had to stand on our own 2 feet to be like, you know what? Nah, like this isn't what we're doing. Like this, there's a better calling for us. There's a better use of our resources. There's a better use of our time, and we want to deal with people who be trustworthy.
Now, looking back on it, is there something when you say like, goodness, should I have done something different, like prepare for it differently, bring a random male friend?
Oh no, we did have a male friend. I have an escort here. I don't go nowhere. If you see any of my media, you'll always see Omar. I don't go anywhere without Omar. Omar is my right hand. So even in seeing him, they looked at him like, okay, well maybe this is the husband and both of these are his wives because Muslim and African, you could do that. So but once it was clear that he was our here for our business management, and he is the building manager here. All of our staff, he manages our entire staff, and he manages the building itself. And I manage the community. So when my guests are coming and when I have tenants in the building, then they are solely my job, and he handles all of the formalities. So he was here, but we were the business people. You know what I mean? So instead of them needing to go through Omar, they needed to communicate with us because we were the ones that was going to be signing the contract. So we found a warehouse in the 11th hour where we were able to hire some people, and we filled the warehouse floor to ceiling. It was enough to hold all of our furniture, all of our household that we had shipped. And for the next 6 months, we looked for apartments. We looked for apartment buildings. We were very intentional about about the kind of building we wanted, about the way we wanted it to feel. I didn't want anything cramped. I wanted things that were units that were full of light. I love artwork. So I love artwork and color, and I have over a 20-year art collection personally that I had shipped all of my pieces of. And I love plants. So I wanted a place where plants could thrive, and I wanted to decorate them the way I would if I lived there. So if you've seen any of the pictures on the website, everything was hand curated by me. So I wanted a place that would be like that, because the city is rough. This city is just like any other city. Like, you come here and it's chaotic and traffic is crazy. And so at the end of the day, you want a place that you can come to and it could be tranquil. And so we went through a lot of places until we found this one. And when we finally found this one, we have been walking on foot, canvassing the neighborhood. And I saw the house that was next door, and it's like a bright green color. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Look at this avocado house. And then, and then right beside the house, I saw the circular balcony of this one. And that was such an interesting architectural detail to me. I love the color. My favorite color is purple. The front door is purple. Like it called to me. And so it was under construction. And so we called Omar to have him reach out to the real estate agent. And we met with the construction manager, and he allowed us to walk through the property. And so we're walking through, and it's nice, and apartments, and there's detailing and the architecture of the ceiling, and it was so pretty. And the further up you went, the brighter the apartments got. And I like the fact that it was on an open lot. It was, at the time, it was on the corner. They've since started some construction on the corner now. But the further up you got, and then we got to this apartment, I looked through the window and there was the monument perfectly centered in the middle of my window. And when we went upstairs further still onto the rooftop, you can see the mountain that has the lighthouse and the mountain that has the monument. And right beyond that, you can see the ocean. And that's when I knew that I was home, because it started with the vision of just wanting to see the monument. That's it. Sometimes the vision that we have for ourselves is so small, and God says, hold my beer. You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to see it one time, and I could be like, I'll be fine with it. Hey, I've seen the monument. Now I get to wake up and have my morning coffee and my morning tea and meditate in my window and see the monument every day. And at night, like times like this, it lights up like it's green and it's purple, and through the crown it's like yellow, and the colors change. It's very beautiful.
And that's huge. I mean, that over and over and over again, it's, sometimes we're limited by our vision. We're like, oh, I just want to do one small goal, something small. I just want to be able to pay off a credit card, or I just want to be able to have a little bit of room to breathe. And really and truly, the limits of where you can go are so much further. And so I just love, when I first saw yours, I was like, oh, yeah, you got to share that, because it's so much of, we think, goodness gracious, nobody could do this, or I have to be 10 times more or bigger or better or whatever it might be in order to make these changes. But I mean, I'm quite sure when you walked away from that deal, and one, there's a lesson in that sometimes you just got to be okay with walking away. And then you ended up in a much better situation. But I think even hearing that, some people are going to say, oh, I couldn't have done that. Like, I would have cried and went back home. Now, what are some of the things when you think about like the trials that you went through in this process to get to where you are today? Maybe some of the things you say, goodness, maybe we could have prepared more for this, and you can never, prepare enough. But are there things that if someone is saying, okay, this is me, so 2 years from now, I'm going to be right there sitting in a similar seat, what are some of the things they need to be prepared for, or mistakes they can hopefully thwart off?
I would recommend to learn the language first and foremost, because although I'm so grateful for having my right hand who speaks 5 different languages, can navigate all of these streets versus corporate versus market, like he can navigate that for me, I want to be able to navigate it for myself. And even though maybe I wouldn't have been able to learn Wolof or Sere or like Pole or any of those languages without being here, I could at least have learned some French, because that is the language of business. So I think that it's important to be familiar with the culture of the area. Don't go in blindly, like deeper than just a tradition. Like, find somebody that's from there and ask them, what do I need to know? Because I didn't realize that this was a patriarchal society until we got here. I didn't realize until we got here, because we are strong, independent Black women in the United States, honey. We don't need a man for nothing unless we want one. Here, you need a man, sis. Even if he's not there romantically, he needs to be somewhere in the vicinity, because men deal with men in this society, and women deal with women in this society. And unfortunately, in business, you have overwhelmingly more men than you have women. So you kind of need a man that listens. So I think that that's important. I think that it's important that you understand the currency of the place that you're going to, and how everything is not on the scale of USD. Here in Senegal, they spend Sefa, which is Central African francs. And the conversion of Sefa to USD is about 530 Sefa to $1. So you may have big bills, or you may have, and everything here is cash based too. So you need to know that, like, if you're going somewhere where you can use digital money, or you're going somewhere where you're going to need cash on hand. Stack your coins, sis, because you're going to go through so much more money than you think you're going to spend. Whatever it is that you're thinking about budgeting, triple it. Seriously. Because when you go to places, especially Francophone countries, there's a lot of bureaucracy. And sometimes when you're trying to do things the regular average way that it gets done, it's going to take months because it's all analog. Like you'll go literally to a place and they'll hand you a paper and tell you, okay, you got to pay me for this paper, but then you got to take this paper across town and have it validated, and that person has to stamp it, and then you have to pay for the stamp, and then you take that to another place across town, and then you wait in a 2-week long line, and then they'll finally be able to process it through, and that's how you register your car, right? But with all the bureaucracy, you have to know where to go, like to have somebody that can handle it for you and you can get it back within time. That takes cash because you can't pay those people in digital currency. Like it just doesn't exist. I think that it's important to start businesses in the States, like have a business mindset, because you come into another country, you are not, unless you're a teacher. Unless you're a teacher or some other type of like advanced engineer that speaks the language, good luck to you trying to find a job here. You pretty much have to be self-sustaining. So we're in a place where a lot of people are digital nomads. This is a beautiful place for digital nomad work. You know, someone who's a virtual assistant, someone who you already have a support base, because that's very important in a place like this. You need to be making your own money, because to come to another country and then apply for a job is not going to work. It's not going to work. And even if you were to make like a local wage, you as an American cannot survive on that local wage, because you're not going to live where you want to live, because a local wage won't afford you to live where you want to live. So it's very important that you have some sort of passive income, or you already have your own job in which you are making US currency in order to make that work over here.
Now that's a good, I think it's somewhat of a misconception sometimes. So we just assume as Americans, everything, you know, when we leave America, everything should be cheaper, especially heading over to Africa. In
No.
terms of money and so forth, what should people be thinking of? I mean, you talked about, you know, whatever you're thinking, let's triple that. I think it's huge. We often hear about, oh, come on home. And people are like, oh, I would love to buy some land. I would love to buy some property. What is realistic? And I also think what is realistic, because here, you know, we say, oh, I want to buy a house. You got to bring a few $1,000s to the table, and the other $100,000 is going to be financed.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit more about that piece. So if people are saying, okay, this is my 2-year plan, what is, you know, a good realistic get your money right? And is getting a loan an option? Is it all cash based? How to actually kind of do that business part of the transaction?
Real estate here is largely cash based. Like there's some banks that will, like if people are established here, they can get loans and mortgages and things like that, but it's not like you think it is in the States. Like in the States, we have the option of having a 30-year mortgage. Here, not so much. Maybe you'll get a loan for construction, but that loan is 5 years, you know, and it's not inexpensive at all, especially where, depending on where it is that you are, you know. If you're in the city, you can have any lifestyle whatsoever. You have some apartments that are $2,000 a month, like New York. You have some apartments you can get in there $300 a month. And even still, you can have people who live in rooms and they're paying $50 a month. But your lifestyle is going to vary greatly depending on where it is that you live and how much money you're spending in your rent. This is an area where we're very close to the ocean. We're in the center of the city. The city kind of like bends a turn, you know, so we're right in the crux of that turn. You can be downtown in 20 minutes. You can be uptown in 20 minutes. You know, we're kind of like in the center of things. And this is a very brand new neighborhoods. So everything that's going to be in this area is new. It's newer apartments. These apartments are less than 5 years old. My apartment, they just put the doorknob on 2 months ago. You know what I mean? So the newer it is, the more you're going to pay for it. And also, people need to realize that, there are some places that you can live in the city and they may not have running water every day. They may not have a constant electricity every day. There's a budget for everything. But what I would recommend anyone that is thinking about moving to Africa, please visit first. Don't go blindly. Visit first and try and make friends with locals and see where it is. Visit forums online. Like here in Dakar, there's expat forums. There's a forum called Dakarium that can teach you. You can go there if you want to look for apartments. So sometimes people are moving in and out. This is a transient city, so they'll be selling furniture, things like that. So you can get those from those type of Facebook groups. So my cautionary tale to anybody who wants to travel this path is to do as much of your research as possible. There's places where you can get lots of land, and you're spending maybe about 15,000 for that land. 15,000, 20,000. It gets higher the closer you are to the city, and also the closer you are to the ocean. But most people, there's not a huge resale market here. There is a huge rental market here because people are transient. But in order to have a home, most people build. So they'll buy land and then they'll build their own compound. You don't find too many people that are selling, because once they build, they can always just get rental income from that place. And once you own your land, you own it. There's no annual taxes that you pay on it.
Now that's different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And some places they'll ask you to pay taxes on the improvement on the land, but the actual land itself, if you bought this land and you willed this land to your grandkids, this land is going to stay in your family and you won't spend another dime on it. So that in itself is really the wealth of Africa. You have a lot of people, they don't have currency money because of economics and education system and all the other things that are oppressive, but they have land that they can do anything they want with. You know what I mean? And just one of the beautiful things about being a diasporan here and knowing how to invest in real estate and knowing how to build businesses, knowing customer service and all the things that we spent the last 20 years doing, for a living back home, that skill set we can bring here and start businesses that can help the economy grow, that can teach skills to, people who otherwise wouldn't have got that opportunity because they have to go to either Asian companies to hire them or European companies to hire them. We have the opportunity to be able to create jobs for our local brothers and sisters. We have the opportunity to come through and teach what we know. It's so important to teach what we know, like each one teach one. It can shift the trajectory of someone's whole family just because you taught them how to fish rather than fed them for a night. Do you understand what I mean? Like, it's so imperative that those that have the heart for it, I'll say, because this is no cakewalk, and I'm not even going to pretend that it is. And not everybody is built for this, but I'm happy that I'm built strong. I am built sturdy, and I'm ready, for the challenge of the next 30 years in order to create legacy that's going to shift my local brothers and sisters here. And I invite all of my brothers and sisters that are across the globe throughout the diaspora to consider coming home. Consider it. Even if it's temporary, even if you just come and teach something for a season, even if it's only for a couple months, consider it, because every person that's here is planting a seed in this space, into the minds of the people, into the heart of the children. Like, we're called to plant those seeds. And some of us are called to come and help harvest the crop, tend the crop. Like, it's our responsibility. And if we want to see Africa rise, we got to be there to be able to get into the fight with her. And that's not easy. That's not easy for a lot of people. It takes a completely different shift in your mindset. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to be scared. Just do it scared. Just do it scared.
You know, you said mindset, and I think that's huge because oftentimes when people are thinking about, okay, where would I go? So if I leave America, where do I go? And like you said, to have some of those kind of Americanized luxuries that we think of as maybe even just standards, what are some of those mind shifts that people really need to make? Because I mean, one of the first things, especially I've been to a number of different countries, and sometimes people are like, ugh, Americans for a number of different reasons. And usually you don't even have to say that you're American, and people are like, you must be
Oh, they
American.
know. They know.
But
I get screamed at down the street. Like, you haven't seen me from a can of paint. American girl. I'm like, oh. I look around like, is he talking to me? Everyone else turn around, they're looking at me too. I'm like, oh, so I've been clocked. I've been clocked. All right, got it. um, Shifting of the mindset. You have to abandon all of your presets. Everything that you think this should go this way because this makes sense and it's only common sense. Oh, my darling, it's only common sense to you. You know, um, they have a very different way here. Africans are very communal. I'll say it's Senegalese. Senegalese people are very, very communal. So they want to spend time together. They believe in being in your family unit. We are very kind of closed in the US. Even when we're social, I'm finding, because I can come from a big family, but we still have things that are normal to us, like knocking on doors. In Senegalese households, oh, there's no knocking on the door. They'll come into the house and then just call you. Like, just stop by and just walk smooth into your house. That's a thing here. If you have a bottle of water or pop or tea or something like that, and someone comes over and they're thirsty, they're picking up your bottle and they're going to drink it. And we're looking at them like, excuse me. There's no there's no personal space. I'm finding, like, and then there's children. The children here are, once they can get off their mother's back, they're in the wind. Like, it's nothing to see a 2-year-old walking down the street by herself. And you're looking like, whose baby is this? The baby's minding her own business. She's on her way to the stove to do what she's doing baby stuff. But we're so used to, like, being in this super hyper protective mode of our kids, and our kids are coddled in the States. And here, these children are wild. Like, they do what they want to do. But I tell you what, that baby that was walking down the street, there's 20 eyes on her. The person at the store saw her when she walked out of the front door. The taxi driver that just came by is looking at her too, making sure that she's out of the street. The security guard at this building over here, he knows this baby because he sees her every day. The security guard at the corner and the old grandfather that sells mangoes at the other corner, all of them have already seen this baby. So nothing is going to happen to this baby. She's divinely protected and she's watched over by her village. And that's something that we don't see, in the States the way that we should. And it's such a beautiful, like, communal environment. Like, you have never met a stranger here. Like, if they recognize that they've never seen you before, they want to know everything about you. Who are you? Where are you from? Where's your husband? Where are your children? They want to know everything about you. And then the next time they see you, they're going to yell and wave, and invite you over for ataya, or invite you to the house on Sunday because his mama's cooking chebujin. It's such a beautiful village environment, and it feels a blessing to be able to be included into this space. I feel like being here is answering so many questions that I didn't know that I had, and that I never would have been able to answer for myself had I not been here and been entrenched in the culture here. Um, I think that it's very important to understand, as an African American coming to Africa, is that they don't know your story. They don't know your story of, um, triumph and overcoming the way that you do. You know, of course, like everyone knows that Black Americans are cool. You know, they know, Malcolm X, and they know, Martin Luther King, and they admire the people that we admire too, but they don't know the struggle of, freeing yourself from slavery and building the country and having to overcome all these things. They don't know that. So that's something that is very, um, distinctive to the African American experience. But at the same time, we don't know the experience of living under the colonizer's rule, or living under a place where your governments was set up in languages that you don't speak, and the currency was set up in other languages to, benefit the mother colonizer country. Like, we don't know that kind of oppression. They don't know our struggle of triumph and overcoming and systematic oppression, and we don't know their colonial oppression that a lot of them are coming through. So it's so important that we find a way to meet in the middle. And instead of saying, well, this is how I grew up and this is the way it is, and instead of them saying, well, this is how we've always done it and this is the way it is, we can meet in the middle and have this conversation. You tell me how you do this, and I can tell you how I can relate to it. You have to come with an open heart and get out of your head, because your head, honey, the anxiety, don't get me started.
Now that's huge. One person did ask about I mean, so many people now are digital nomads, they're able to work remotely. How is the internet connection? Is it something that's reliable enough, and the speeds that kind of depending on maybe if you're teaching online or doing 1,000 Zoom meetings a day, can they do that easily?
They could do that easily. There is high fiber optic, Wi-Fi here throughout the city. Um, Dakar is a technology bed. There's so many more, like there's tech graduates that come out of Dakar that is revolutionizing, what's happening in the tech industry. Unfortunately, a lot of them gets siphoned off to Europe and the United States and Canada and places like that. But, the technology is here. The minds that birth that technology is here. So if someone is, interested in coming and they need that, you can get it.
I think that's huge to say, because the assumption of they're going to give up the ability to have all this kind of technology at your fingertips. And I would challenge people, if you're like, I don't know about how much I'm gonna have to give up to go somewhere else, to kind of Google and watch some YouTube videos, check out the website and drop the link. You can kind of see, you're like, oh, this looks like an apartment down the street from me or something like that. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I watch Netflix and YouTube most of the day. There's local cable channels here too, but I don't speak French. So like I go to what I know. And one of the beautiful things about Sankofa Arms is that in all of our apartment buildings, we have widescreen TVs and Netflix. So we wanted to make sure that we can have that little piece of home here for our guests as well.
So then you can definitely connect. Now, I think that's one of the benefits too. And I know we were chatting before we started just about being able to go somewhere and know someone. And I think that's hard when you go. There are some countries that a lot of the people there, I mean, I think as Americans, we're probably one of the few countries that we speak one language for the most part. But in a lot of countries, people speak multiple languages. But being able to have that community when you arrive, someone to help you navigate and say, okay, that doesn't make sense, or you shouldn't do that, or that's a reasonable price to pay. As you talked about, when they're looking at you and saying, we can tell that you're American, so we're going to give you the American rate versus the local rate, or anything in between. I think that's something key as well. But as people are kind of putting together their community, we talked about knowing the language, understanding a little bit in terms of from a price point, keeping your expectations in check. Are there other things that, okay, let me make sure I do X, find some time to do whatever, or maybe connect with a certain type of individual as well. So whether it be like your Omar, somebody who could be the male in the equation to help maneuver things.
Right. I think it's important to, once you have boots on the ground and when you know people, you know, I'm in the practice of creating community. I do sister circles. I facilitate sister circles. So I've had for the last 10 years the experience of galvanizing groups of women together in community um, to gather and heal and be seen and heard and validated and all the beautiful things. But I continue that work here. It's like whenever we meet somebody in the street, and you know, Americans recognize each other. I don't know how much extensively you've actually traveled, but when we go places, no matter what's going on, especially Black women, we recognize one another. We're like, hey sis, I got fooled one time here. There was a group of sisters on the beach, and I passed by and I said, hey girl, hey. And they all sang out, hey. You know, that's like the sister greeting, right? And then the girl told me, bonjour, ça va? I'm like, oh.
Like, hold on, wait.
I said, wait, parlez-vous français? She was like, oui, Patty, and blah, blah, blah. And then she's talking to me. I'm like, oh, no, girl, I'm American. Wait a minute. You've already exhausted my French. But what I would say to that person is that your community is bigger than you think it is. Like, there's so many different places that we're afraid to go because we think we're going to be the only one, right? And we'll get there and you'll find that not only are there people who are just like you, who have been raised just like you, who speak your language and know your culture and all the things, there's also diasporans that are from places like UK, that are from Canada, that are from France, and they speak perfect English. They've spent college semesters in the US. They've traveled through the US many, many times. So who you may think is your sisters, just because they from Atlanta too, that's not necessarily Black Americans, you know what I mean? Like there's other diasporans that can also help you to navigate. I'm a person who is very spirit-led. I'm spirit-led. I start every situation, every new encounter with, bring me the people that will bring light to my life. Bring me the people along my path that I can grow from, that I can learn from. Bring me the experiences that I need to have and make it easy. Hold on. And make it easy. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone just let my cat in and I specifically kicked him out. I always pray that God will send me the people that I need to have in my life, you know, and so far I have met some of the most amazing, dynamic people, like at random. I'm talking the produce aisle at the grocery store. I'm talking, I went out for brunch and someone heard me speaking English and it turns out, oh, look, I have a new auntie that looks out, that's been here for over 30 years, that helped me to navigate the spaces. So I wouldn't base whether or not I have somebody already there with whether or not I'm going. I would go, I would visit, I would make connections with people, and then I would ask Spirit, are we home? Is this where you would have me? Is there a work that you'll have for me to do here? Can I put hands to soil and grow here? And if the answer is yes, then everything that you need will be added onto you. And I mean that. It's one of those things where it's faith over fear. You know, it's why I said feel the fear, but do it anyway, because you know, obedience is always better than sacrifice. So if Spirit leads you somewhere and said there's just something that will not, it doesn't make sense, but that place won't leave you alone. It doesn't make sense, but that place is always in your heart. You keep coming back to it. It's because you need to put foot on the ground there, and that there's something there for you to do. So I'm always a proponent of listening to your gut, going with where spirits lead you. And if you are obedient, then no matter where you go, somebody is going to be added onto your path there.
I think that's so powerful because so many people are like, I'm afraid to go. I'm afraid to go by myself. I'm afraid to go someplace where I don't speak the language. I'll tell you, I've been in so many different countries where people, even if you don't speak the language, they're friendly enough to try and help you.
Yeah.
They're like, I kind of understand what you're trying to do. Download your Google Translate and piece through it and just be patient. But I mean, like you said, just walk anyway, because so
Yeah.
much of what could be is out there, kind of beyond the fact that you're willing to step out and try something new, go outside of your comfort zone, leave home, and make home somewhere else too. And I know we're a little over the hour. I do have one more question for you.
Okay, come through.
Now, what is something that you miss in America? And I know I've been in a number of the expat groups and they're like, whatever it might be. Somebody said grits because I'm from the South too. So I'm like, I mean, I do love a nice bowl of some cheese grits and so forth.
No, I just had cheese grits the other day. I made Cajun shrimp and grits, and I made cheese grits. Yes,
Okay.
girl, but you can find grits. They're gonna cost you $7 for that 2 canister from Walmart, but you can find them. Um, I think that I miss the thing that I miss. I'm glad that I don't have here. Like I miss the convenience of fast food. Like being able to go to Chick-fil-A real quick. You know what I mean? Like I miss Chick-fil-A. I miss good donuts too, you know. I miss big coffees, you know, because here is very, very French. So honey, you have a little pop, whereas I want like, yeah, you know, I think that I miss those things, good pizza and wings. Like there's nothing like a sports bar with pizza and wings, you know. Um, But that's really it. Everything and those things, even in missing those things, I know how to make them at home. It's just a matter of I think I miss convenience for having, you know, what I want right there immediately. They've even recently in the last couple of months started like a Grubhub kind of situation. So at first I was missing that. There's no Uber here, but at the same time, if you walk out on the street, there's 5 different taxis that's going to pass you in 10 minutes, and all of them are going to beep at you. So you can always find a taxi, which is great. And the most that you'll pay for a taxi ride here across town is like $5. But that even then, that's far. Like to just go like 1 to 2 miles up the road, you'll probably spend about $2 to $3 most. So as opposed to, you know, 7, 8, $10 in Uber, you're gonna save on that with the taxis if you don't have a car. Um, I think that I miss how in America everything is instant. We get we get so spoiled when it comes to like PayPal and Cash App and all the things that you can just whip out a card for and pay. And you know, we don't keep money on our hand. Like we don't money for what? Like take this plastic. Like, this question. But here, everything is cash based and it's very select places that you can go and even use your card. Like maybe the grocery store, maybe if it's a higher end restaurant, they make, you know, take card, but everywhere else literally is cash.
Wow. I think
Mhm.
that's a big thing too. Because and definitely it's probably more likely, not in Europe if you're traveling, you can use your card just about everywhere. But a lot of the African countries I've been to, it's cash based. And as Americans, we're probably not even used to holding so much cash on our.
Yeah,
I'm like, what? $100, $200, $300? Why would I?
for sure. And then you go somewhere, if you do go shopping, they were like, oh, there's 100,000 safer. Hello, what?
Like, wait,
Well,
hold
money, you were like, oh, I'm 100,000. It's $200. Calm down. You know,
you gotta get your conversion right so you're not shocked and fall out.
you do. And you got to have your conversion right, even down to the XC app on your phone, because if not, people take advantage. You know what I mean? Like no matter where it is, if someone sees a lamb amongst wolves, someone's gonna take a bite. You know, so I think that it's very important for us to have our awareness about us. You know, just keep your wits about you. Don't be naive. you know. But I would definitely, I would recommend this. Like I would do this if I had to do it all over again. I would still choose this path. I would still choose Senegal. I would have studied French. Don't get that twisted. I would have studied French, but I'm grateful for my journey because we had to take the long way around in a lot of different cases. I can help others to navigate so that they don't have to do that now. Like when we started the building, we made sure that we set up the cable and the internet. You know, we set up the electricity already and the water already, and we furnished it already, all the way down to the linen for the beds and the pillows and the sheets and the blankets and the cups and dishes and pans. This is a true turnkey. Someone coming here need only bring their clothing, and I took care of the rest.
I love it. And so once again, the website is in the chat.
Yeah.
And I will also send it out. I usually send us a little summary. So if you missed any parts of it, you'll have the link to go back and watch it again. Eugene says, love the interview, and Shay brings the light as always. Thank you so much for that, Eugene. We always love to get a little love in the process. And I think it's just amazing to know that we are home in so many different places and we have belonging in so many different places. And I am so happy that you brought your story and your journey to us so we can see that somebody who looked like us can do it. Because we look around in America and we see all these people from all these different countries, and they're establishing and they're making home miles and miles away from their birthplace, and we can do that too. So it can be our future if it's something that you desire. One, I know in the invite itself has all of her contact information, so you can contact her as well. The website is there, book it. I am going, so if y'all want to go, call me. Because I'm going with or without somebody else, I'm going.
We can set up a tour.
Yes.
We can set up a tour. We have drivers, we have tour companies. I do retreats. So we're going to have, starting this year, we're going to have a semi-annual retreat for healing, relax, relate, and release. So we have programming that's going on at all times. So definitely, I extend the invitation to everyone under the sound of my voice. Look us up, hit us up, and pull up. You're welcome
Thank
home.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Queen. I want to say there is no better time than when I get a chance to spend time with women that are really walking and living in their purpose and spreading that ability or that kind of energy that we can then move in ours as well. Every single Monday, we like to bring actionable insights. And so I always talk about financial independence. Financial independence is our gateway, our ability to live our lives on our own terms. And so really and truly taking our economic gains and taking it elsewhere so you can live your life on your own term is also important. So I want to thank you all for joining me or us again for another great Money Monday. Once again, check out the website, book you a ticket, and make a visit and share your experience.
I
Thank you,
love it.
everybody. Have a great night.
Have a good night. Thank you.